This is Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
I'm the only lawyer ever to obtain a court ruling that a president of the United States committed a crime.
For truth. For competition.
As a young lawyer, I helped break up AT&T. That's why you have all your cell phones today.
For sovereignty. For the Republic.
I'm the guy who at Judicial Watch, which I founded, uncovered the Chinagate scandal. Millions of dollars going to the Clinton campaign, corrupting our political system.
For the privacy of citizens.
And I'm the only guy to have enjoined the National Security Agency from mass surveillance on hundreds of millions of Americans.
Tearing it up.
I'm the son of meatpackers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
Bringing it back.
We're going to take this country apart and put it back together again in the way envisioned by our founding fathers.
It's not just talk.
We're not just regurgitating news stories. Larry Klayman, special prosecutor, is making the news.
And now, here's Larry.
Welcome to this week's edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. Again, as I always say, an important show. You're going to get the truth here. You're not going to get the sugar coat that you get on Fox News or Washington Examiner or other places like that. You're going to get the cold, hard facts, the facts of life. Now, the president is right. This week, he called the Republican establishment scum, S-C-U-M, which is exactly what they are. And that shows you that I'm nonpartisan, okay? I call it as I see it, because they're about ready to stab this president in the back, much like Brutus stabbed Caesar in the back. In fact, I did a show for Jason Goodman of Crowdsource the Truth. It's up on our website, and it's also up on the YouTube, Freedom Watch YouTube TV. And there's a really good meme on there. You know, it's parody, but there is President Trump, like Caesar, collapsing, and around him are not just Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and other rabid Democrats, but Republicans like Mitt Romney, who's a senator now, Lindsey Graham, the former Speaker of the House, all people that really wanted to do this president in. Paul Ryan, of course, former Speaker of the House. They now smell blood in the water. There's going to be an impeachment in the House of Representatives. It's only a matter of time. The Democrats will try to drag this out, get it as close to the election as possible to try to weaken the president come election time. And there is already some effect. The polls are not completely inaccurate. Even the Fox News polls. The president right now is in a precarious position with independent voters who don't know which way to turn. People who voted for him last time, they know that he did really good work, but they're wondering whether he's going to be around. Much like if you're an ultra-leftist and a socialist, you wonder whether Bernie Sanders or Biden are going to make it to the election. They could have heart attacks, strokes, God knows what. So this president is facing the possibility and the likelihood of impeachment in the House of Representatives. But take a look at that meme. Share it. Take it off of our website. Take it off of Freedom Watch YouTube TV, because this tells the story. And, you know, I actually sent it to people in and around the president. Sure enough, next day, the president comes out and he calls the Republican establishment scum. There's frequently effect with what I'm doing here in terms of public relations and getting the point across. And then, of course, you've seen the Republican establishment of late. Fox, except for a few primetime commentators, has turned radical left. There was an article that James Murdoch doesn't even watch Fox News anymore. He's one of the owners. He's one of the sons of Rupert Murdoch. The other one is Lachlan. He's out in Los Angeles. The two of them are leftists. They, of course, allow Hannity and Laura Ingraham and Tucker Carlson to do their thing because that rakes in the advertising dollars at night. But Fox otherwise, during the day, whether it's Neil Cavuto, whether it's Juan Williams, whether it's Chris Wallace on the weekend with the Fox News Sunday, whether it's a host of others, it's become viciously anti-Trump. And that's why even Rush Limbaugh now calls Fox News the never-Trumper Fox News network. But you have others up there, too. The Washington Examiner, pure Republican establishment. This week, Kellyanne Conway, the president's counselor, got into a tiff with a female reporter who was trying to get information on her relationship with her husband. Washington Examiner is the Republican establishment. They have defamed my client, Judge Roy Moore. They've defamed others in the process. They run interference for the likes of Karl Rove, and make no mistake about it, Karl Rove is equally as evil as people like James Carville, who was the political consultant for the Clintons. It's part of an industry in Washington. Rove rakes in the dollars, too, through his PACs and other things, and he wants his people inserted. He tried to get his guy, Luther Strange, to run for the Senate in Alabama last time. He didn't succeed. Judge Moore won the primary. He didn't win. The election was cooked. He's now running again, and I'm sure Rove will be back at it with his clowns at the Washington Examiner trying to destroy true conservatives. Now, there are very few Republicans who are true conservatives, I might add. I can't even think of one. Let's talk about Lindsey Graham. I turned the TV on one of the few times I turned Fox on in recent history. Tucker Carlson was on last week, and he was trashing Lindsey Graham, quite understandably, because Lindsey, as we'll call him, has a big mouth. Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to investigate the Steele dossier. I'm going to investigate Fusion GPS. I'm going to do all this stuff. He hasn't done anything. He's the head of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Lindsey is just in there for Lindsey. He'll be one of the ones that stabbed Trump in the back, too. Remember, he ran against Trump last time, and the Democrats are going to be playing commercials with Lindsey Graham trashing Trump. So this is who the president needs to fear. He needs to fear the Republican establishment of his own so-called party even more than he has to fear the Democrats. It's always more risky to get it in the back than to get it in the front. In fact, I've found that in terms of people that I have to deal with in the so-called conservative movement, whether it's Tom Fitton at Judicial Watch or whether it's others out there, whether it's Matt Schlapp, I call him Matt Schlock at ACU, or people like that. These people want to stab you in the back because, Matt Schlock, he actually favored candidates other than Trump. He just came around to Trump because he had to for fundraising, after Trump won. And that's when there's blood in the water like this, not beyond the realm of possibility that the president could even be convicted in the Senate if these people flip. It's clear that Mitt Romney wants to run for president. And it's clear that some others, like Lindsey Graham, probably want to run too, or Marco Rubio from Florida, my native state of Florida. He's a two-faced twit, okay, for lack of a better word. Guy's never done anything. But the reality here is that the president's in dire straits, and we need to stand up for him. And that's why you need to support freedomwatchusa.org. Go there, contribute to our cause. We need to get bigger. We're bringing cases which will help the president legally. We don't advocate who to vote for. We don't do that as a public interest group. You may be able to figure out who Larry Klaim is going to vote for, but I'm not going to say. But the reality is that this president needs the support. Now, he doesn't have the support of Rudy Giuliani anymore, his former lawyer. Giuliani's under criminal investigation. 2 of his associates have been indicted in the last few weeks. And remember that Bernie Kerik, former police commissioner of New York City during 9/11, who ran a security out firm for Giuliani several years ago, he wound up being indicted and convicted. So whether or not Giuliani did anything wrong, he certainly hangs around people that have the capacity to take him down if he doesn't take himself down with what he's done. So that's why you need a Freedom Watch, because frankly the president's defenseless. Jay Sekulow is a nice person and is a very good religious rights lawyer, is not a criminal defense lawyer, and we have to step in to the breach. Now, the Roger Stone trial is coming up. I'm going to be there observing what's going on. Jerry Corsi, fortunately, my client, we kept him from being indicted. Jerry didn't do anything wrong. He was truthful. But it's important that we monitor what's happening out there today, because there's a lot of things that are moving parts. And Nancy Pelosi, we have a Pelosi project. We're looking into her corruption. So we need to push back. The president told the Republicans to push back. They're not really pushing back. They're sitting there doing nothing. They hope the president will go down. The Republican establishment, they never liked him. They never wanted him to be president in the first place. And then, of course, we have the phony investigations of our Attorney General, Bill Barr, who hasn't done squat, excuse the French. James Comey wasn't indicted, 2 opportunities to do that upon referrals by the Inspector General, an Obama appointee no less, Michael Horowitz. Barr took a dive. McCabe, where's he? They thought he was going to be indicted. Not indicted. Where's Rosenstein? Where's Bruce Orr? Where's Christopher Steele? Where are the others? And that's why at Freedom Watch we will be cranking up our citizens' grand juries and seeking the indictments of these people. We will then try them in a citizen's court. We've already indicted Mueller. We're going to do the same. And then we'll seek to have them sentenced by a citizen's judge. And we'll ask the president, U.S. Marshal Service, to enforce those sentences. And the people actually have a right to do it themselves. We would never do it in a forceful way. We'll do it peacefully and legally. We'll ask these people to turn themselves in to prison because we do have a right of citizen's arrest even. I mean, it does exist. Existed in the Old West. It exists now. It's never been taken off the books. If you walk down the street and you see a crime being committed, you have the right. Of course, the Bidens will be indicted as well. And that was why I was pulled off of YouTube weeks ago. I had to threaten to bring a case against YouTube, Google, and the Bidens to get our YouTube channel back on. And you can now watch all of that. So these phony leaks that you heard this week, that this guy Durham up there in Connecticut is going to be investigating the intelligence czars, John Brennan and James Clapper. I mean, that is BS of the highest magnitude. Do you know what Clapper and Brennan have on everybody? They ran the CIA. They ran Clapper was the director of national intelligence. Brennan was the CIA director. They've got so much dirt on people with the mass surveillance. Nothing's going to happen. This is just to take the pressure off of the Trump Justice Department, which is not really even protecting the president either. Certainly they don't protect good people like Cliven Bundy, who allowed for the Justice Department to take an appeal after Bundy was politically prosecuted by the Obama Justice Department. We have lawsuits on that. So you can only depend on Larry Klayman and Freedom Watch. I say that. I say that with all modesty, because nobody else out there will do what I do. No one else will put his neck on the line. I believe in this country, and I'll do what it takes. My belief in God will get me through, whatever it takes. And I hope yours will as well. So go to freedomwatchusa.org. Contribute to our cause, tax-deductible contributions, and let's see what it is we're doing. I'll be right back with the second segment of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman.
Fearless.
He's claiming he's crazy, he's racist, he's out to kill the Democrats.
Dangerous.
Don't care, use the court and the law.
Lethal.
This is bad.
Special Prosecutor
Very bad.
Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
I want to talk now about our brave clients. You see, this is what separates Freedom Watch today from Judicial Watch when I ran it in the 1990s and early 2000s. I founded Judicial Watch. I was the chief lawyer. Tom Fitton's not a lawyer. They changed the mission when I left to primarily transparency in government to get documents. But documents are not enough. Documents are okay if you want to use that to get on Fox News, on Jeanine Pirro or others. They want the documents because they want to be relevant each week. Now ask yourself, what has Judge Jeanine done? She's a lawyer. She's doing what I'm doing. But she's not. No other lawyer in this country will do what I do. No one else in this country will risk the wrath of judges or risk the wrath of bar associations or risk the wrath of the media or risk the wrath of our so-called Congress or our executive branch to do what needs to be done. Now, our founding fathers, they pledged their fortunes, their sacred honor, and risked their lives to found a new nation. It's not enough to be a couch potato and to eat popcorn and beer and turn on Hannity each night. I say this every week. Get up there, join Freedom Watch's Justice League. Contribute to our cause. Send me emails, leklayman@gmail.com, leklayman@yahoo.com. If you have any suggestions on what we should be doing, become part of what it is that we do, because we're different. We have real clients. We have Sheriff Joe Arpaio. We have Cliven Bundy and his son Ryan. We have Rick Lavellian. We have Stephen Stewart, people who were wrongly indicted along with the Bundys. In fact, the government didn't even use the term government. This isn't a government at all. It's a tyrannical entity in terms of this Justice Department, both during Obama and currently, frankly. I've got to be candid. And they indicted these people, didn't even present evidence at trial. So the lawyers that were representing them at the time, I'm now representing them in countersuits, malicious prosecution cases. They didn't even bother to give a closing argument. They just walked off. The jury was smart enough to figure it out and acquitted them. But they were in prison for 2 years for no reason. This is what we're dealing with our so-called Department of Justice, which is one of the most corrupt entities in this country. And, there are other countries actually that have departments of justice that actually do something and hold the elite accountable. Ours don't. They're part of the Washington Club. They're part of stuffing money into their own pockets, the higher-ups, the people that run it. They go to the same parties with the Democrats. We're talking about Trump Justice Department now. They want to be socially accepted. They don't want to stick their neck out because, yes, there are people like John Brennan and James Clapper who have stuff on them, who have dirt on them. They don't want it to come out. I got a call today from a reporter asking me if there was an impeachment trial in the Senate, if Chief Justice John Roberts should preside over it. Now, Roberts has taken some shots at the president. I would suggest, and I will return that call, give them a comment, that Roberts needs to recuse himself because he's one of those never-Trumpers. He's one of the Republican establishment that'll be very happy to cook the trial to remove the president of the United States. He has been hiding stuff for years. There's lots of rumors about him in Washington, D.C. I won't get into it on this show, but just Google it. You'll see what they are. And he doesn't want to stick his neck out. And that's why he's made the bad rulings he did with Obamacare. I think they got to him. He made bad rulings in other cases as well. Kavanaugh, he's worthless. He's a political hack. Okay, he's turned liberal since he took the bench. And this is what we've got up there. We've got politicians in robes. So that's why our citizens' grand juries are so important, because the people now need to legally and peacefully mete out justice themselves. And we do that through our clients like the Arpaio, the Bundys, the Laura Loomers, who's coming on in the next segment, the Judge Roy Moores, the families of Extortion 17 who had their sons killed in the largest loss of life in the Afghan war but can't get any explanation from the government. I can go on and on and on. Go to our website at freedomwatchusa.org. See what it is we're doing. Sign up for our newsletters. They're free. And see how Freedom Watch today is what Judicial Watch was when I ran it. It is the People's Justice Department. I'm going to be right back with Laura Loomer. She's one of the most brave people in this country. She's risking her life every single day. And that's why I have her on frequently, because she'll stand up for what she thinks is right. And I want her to give a report on what she's been doing down there in Florida and throughout the country. So I'll be right back. Until I do come back, go to freedomwatchusa.org and join our Justice League. Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. I'll be right back.
And now, 4 words that make corrupt politicians make wee-wee in their little pants.
Transparency and the rule of law will be the touchstones of this presidency.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
Be the one who makes our country great again. Go to freedomwatchusa.org and donate.
I'm back with my friend and valiant and patriotic client, Laura Loomer, one of the few people, as I said, in this country who will stick her neck out. She risks not just her reputation, which has been trashed by social media, by the left, but she also risks her life on a daily basis because she stood up to the likes of Ilhan Omar. She's the one who uncovered the immigration fraud of Ilhan Omar, the Muslim congresswoman from Minnesota. She's the one who was assaulted by Rashida Tlaib and brought a lawsuit against Rashida Tlaib, which is moving through the courts. Who would do that other than Laura Loomer and her lawyer, yours truly, Larry Klayman? You know, when you do that, sometimes you wind up with these radicals. They call me, from time to time, these radical Muslims threaten me, tell me that I better apologize or else. And frankly, I don't let people know my whereabouts. I have nothing on my door as to where I'm located, in terms of my office or where I am, because these people are violent and they're vicious. And Laura goes through this every single day, So I want her to give a report to what she's doing. She's running for the U.S. Congress down in Palm Beach County. We brought a lawsuit against Facebook for defaming her as a domestic terrorist and also holding her out to dry in terms of potential threats and actual threats. We're bringing a new lawsuit shortly because she's being defamed on a daily basis. So I want you to hear from her because, you see, she, perhaps above everybody else, is the most courageous person out there, particularly since she's taking on the radical Islamic left. Laura, give us an update on what's been going on.
Hi, Larry. Thanks for having me. Yeah, so, as you mentioned, in about a week or so, you and I were going to be filing several defamation suits against various members of the media, different left-wing media publications for their defamation of me. Of course, they've called me a white supremacist. They've accused me of having a sex tape. They've said I'm a Nazi. They say all types of horrific things that have, resulted in severe defamation. And just a total, disruption of my business, my professional life, my personal life, with these false accusations that they've made. And so I'm looking forward to that because, it's about time that the fake news media be held accountable for their destructive lies. They lie about conservatives and people like myself and you who care about our country and support our president on a daily basis. And I think they ought to pay the price and face consequences for their illegal activity. I also just had a lot of success on the fundraising end of my campaign because I out-fundraised the sitting Democrat incumbent in the third quarter. I raised about $154,000 and she raised about $107,000. And so, it's going well, and I'm very excited because a lot of people said that I didn't have a chance and that I wasn't going to raise a dime, and now they're shocked. Now they're speechless because I raised more than the Democrat incumbents and all of my GOP opponents combined.
What's amazing is you did that having been banned from all social media. I mean, just think what you would have raised if you had access to Google, YouTube, to Instagram, to Twitter, and all these other places to get your name out. So that's quite remarkable. Right, exactly. And the people throughout this country are beginning to understand who Laura Loomer is and how you are so courageous and how you'll stand up to this tyranny from the radical left and, all kinds of other things that you're involved in. Now, tell everybody a little bit about yourself. What's your history so they can get to know you personally and give, information on where if they want to contribute, to your campaign, they can do that.
Well, I'm a conservative investigative journalist, and I got my career started working for Project Veritas, where I worked undercover, of course, for 3 years, exposing Hillary Clinton and her campaign. And then when I left Project Veritas, I started my own media company called Illuminate Media, and I started traveling the country exposing the left and jihadists and making videos called LOOMER videos. And these videos were very effective, and I quickly built an online following of millions of people in the course of about 2 or 2.5 years. And because I was so effective, the left and the big tech social media companies made me their number one target, and they colluded with groups like CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, to shut me down and silence me and take away 90% of my income and really just kind of, destroy my free speech.
Now, you've never advocated violence against anybody, have you?
No.
No. Well, you've done some pranks. You do pranks, you punk people because you're making a point. It's satire, and it's good-natured, and you're trying to use humor to get the point across. Humor can be very, very powerful. I've done some stand-up comedy myself. I don't have time really to do it. I wish I could, frankly. Sometimes I wish I was a stand-up comic full-time. I don't know if anybody finds me funny. Certainly my adversaries don't. But tell us about some of the things you've done to make a point with regard to Nancy Pelosi, Gavin Newsom, Twitter, that kind of thing. And this is why they brand you a domestic terrorist, because you're doing satire, okay?
Right.
And, they use that as an excuse.
Well, when I was permanently banned from Twitter, I handcuffed myself to the front door of Twitter's headquarters office, and it became the number one trending video online and on Twitter, even though I was banned on Twitter. And then I put illegal aliens on Nancy Pelosi's lawn when the government was shut down. So that was exciting. And that also became the #1 trending story on Twitter, even though I don't have a Twitter account. So I've done a lot of things. I got arrested at the California governor's mansion where Gavin Newsom was living because he said that everyone was welcome in California. So I decided to set up a sanctuary tent on his lawn and hop over the fence of the governor's mansion. And he had me arresting for trespassing. And so, it's very humorous because you say that there's no such thing as trespassing and everyone's welcome here and you don't have to respect the U.S. border. But then these Democrats, they don't really like it when you decide to take up sanctuary at their mansions, their multi-million-dollar homes, and they will cite you for trespassing. But if you're a legal alien and you're illegal, you're dealing drugs or you're raping women or you're killing people, they don't have a problem with you. And in fact, Gavin Newsom went out of his way to press charges against me and try to have me jailed for 15 days and give me probation for 3 years. And he has been, advocating on behalf of criminal illegal aliens this week in California, arguing that they deserve to be released from jail. These are people who have murdered people who have, committed horrific crimes. So it's clear that the Democrats, people like Gavin Newsom and Nancy Pelosi, who are related, by the way, Gavin is Nancy's nephew, for those of you who don't know, they care more about illegal aliens than they do about American citizens.
Tell us what happened with Rashida Tlaib up there in Minnesota, for which we have a lawsuit, and where they can go to look at the video. You can also see it at freedomwatchusa.org, of course.
Right. So prior to the 2018 midterm elections, when Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar were then candidates, I was on the ground in Minnesota doing deep dive investigations into them, and they had a joint campaign event in Minnesota. Well, I went and I confronted them, and I asked Omar why she married her brother, why they hate Israel, why they hate the Jews, why they work with terrorist organizations like CARE. And when I asked Rashida Tlaib to condemn Hamas, she physically attacked me, and she assaulted me. It's on video. You can see it. She forcefully grabbed my hand, tried to steal my cell phone, and, assaulted me simply because I asked her to condemn a terrorist organization. So these are very violent people who we're dealing with here, very violent people who hate America. And so, yes, we did file, you as my representation, we filed a lawsuit against Rashida Tlaib for assault as well. And so hopefully, I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens. But she was served on 9/11, and we are awaiting to see what the court says.
When you were up in Minnesota investigating Ilhan Omar, you walked into certain bookshops. You remember? Because you called me and you told me. What did you find in the bookshops in Minnesota on U.S. soil, American soil, in the district of Ilhan Omar?
Well, these are Somali. This is a Somali mall called Carmel Mall. And as you know, Ilhan Omar herself is a Somali immigrant, and there's a very large Somali population in Minnesota. And they had these books in the bookstore in the mall for first grade students that were talking about killing Jews. So horrific stuff that we were seeing, just absolutely horrible stuff that is, clearly supported by Ilhan Omar in her own district, her own people, the people who voted for her, the people who are donating to her, the people who make up a large portion of her constituency. And this is the type of stuff that they're indoctrinating their children with, right? Kill the Jews, kill Christians. It's absolutely horrific. And, you could just walk into the mall, and this is just a normal day for these people, these Somali migrants who want to teach their children about murdering innocent Jewish people. So, I have never seen Ilhan Omar condemn this type of behavior. In fact, she often takes money from groups that advocate for killing Jews that have been found to be supporting Hamas. And I'm running for Congress in Palm Beach, Florida. And tomorrow, Ilhan Omar is going to be 45 minutes outside of my district in Coral Springs, which, of course, it has a large Jewish population. And they're having a banquet for CARE. And so it's very problematic that she is a sitting member of Congress on our Foreign Affairs Committee having banquets with members of terrorist organizations like CARE.
Well, what's even more distressing, and I've said this before, is the Jewish left, helped put her in power with donations up there in Minnesota and elsewhere. Bernie Sanders accepted her endorsement and Rashida Tlaib's endorsement and Ocasio-Cortez's endorsement. Bernie Sanders is Jewish. He doesn't like to let people know that because he's a self-hating Jew. I doubt that his real name is Sanders. It was changed by his dad, And it's just unbelievable that this guy would hold himself out as someone who believes in democracy when he's being supported by people who want to crush democracy. And it's also not just the height of hypocrisy, but it's just disgusting that people like you are branded domestic terrorists. And when you find stuff in bookstores advocating, killing Jews and Christians, I might add, Obama packed Ilham's district. He sent a lot of the Somali refugees up there. And it's interesting because, Minnesota, a lot of Nordic people, Swedish, Norway, that kind of thing, they're very tolerant people. But they're learning the lesson right now as to what they let in. And, these people, that run bookstores and things like that, they're creating a culture up there which is going to be dangerous to the citizens of Minnesota. Now, this is not hate speech, if anybody's listening to me.
It's also
this
the
is just the truth.
It's also the Catholic Church. It's also the Catholic Church. Catholic Charities has been sponsoring a lot of these migrants, and the Catholic Church really needs to, have a discussion from within and decide whether or not they really want to keep sponsoring Islamic immigration. Because, look, Christians are the most persecuted people in the world. About 90,000 Christians are killed by Muslims every single year throughout the world. That's what you call genocide, right? And it's the Catholic Charities that are actually bringing in a lot of these Somali migrants and Islamic refugees from places like Syria and, other terror hotbeds in the world. And so, they need to have some level of responsibility for the destruction that's taking place in Middle America and a lot of these cities where they're doing refugee resettlement programs, and no one wants to talk about it.
Well, there's nothing wrong with the Catholic Church. I mean, it's as good as any other religion, Judeo or Christian. But the Catholic Church has historically been insensitive to Jewish people. And that occurred, of course, during World War II, where they did little to nothing with regard to the Holocaust. The Pope knew what was going on. Now, Pope John Paul II, I believe, was a great man, one of the greatest men in world history. But this current Pope, who's a leftist, ultra-leftist, he's naive. And I think a lot of it, he's giving the green light, to people in the United States to misuse the good offices of the Catholic Church. But Catholicism is not the Pope, okay? He's not God, although he may think he's God. But there's nothing wrong with the religion. It's the way people practice that religion. And we find that in our own faith, the Jewish faith, because the Jewish left is almost as destructive as the radical Islamic left. I mean, they've kind of become bookends. And of course, you see what Israel's going through these days with the Jewish left. So anyway, I want to thank you, Laura, for coming on. Tell people where they can reach you if they want to donate. We have about 30 seconds left.
People can go to lauraloomerforcongress.com, and you can sign up to follow and receive updates from my campaign, and that's where you can donate online as well.
Well, thank you for coming on. I hope people will follow what Laura is doing. We need more courageous people like Laura. Like I said, get off the couch, put the popcorn down, and let's get to work. Forget about Hannity. Let's do something real. I'll be right back with the verdict section of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman.
Before he was a trial lawyer, he sliced him and diced him.
People used to ask me, Larry, what caused you to start Judicial Watch and now Freedom Watch, given the powerful forces in this country that put you at risk?
In a meat packing plant.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
A very special prosecutor, Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
This is the verdict section of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. You heard it, fellow patriots and friends. There aren't many Laura Loomers out there. There aren't many Sheriff Joe Arpaios. There aren't many Judge Roy Moores. There aren't many Cliven Bundys and Ryan Bundys and their sons. But we have to support them, and you have to become like them. You have to stick your neck out peacefully and legally. You have to challenge the tyranny of the federal government in particular, state government as well. It was Thomas Jefferson, as I said many times, one of his greatest quotes was, when the people fear the government, there's tyranny. But when the government fears the people, there's liberty. Now, we don't want to resort to violence. We don't want a violent revolution. But you know what? We're headed into it. We're not going to start it. The left is going to start it. And I'm fearful that some on the right, frankly, who are more adept at fighting revolutions, will really ignite something. Because if Trump is impeached, and Trump is right, he also said this, he's right. If he's impeached, and particularly if he's convicted, this country's going to come apart at the seams. We're going to be in a civil war. And that's why we can't let him be convicted. He will be impeached. But we have to prevent that, because there are radicals from all stages and all parts of our political body politic, whether it's left, right, or center. And those radical elements will start to clash with each other. And if, as I've said, if the left succeeds at taking over this country, and the Republicans could even lose the Senate. Now, granted, they don't do anything right now. Okay, they just sit there raking in the money, getting reelected, hoping the president's going to be stabbed in the back so some of them can run for president in 2020. But if the Senate is lost to the Democrats, and if the House is retained by the Democrats, and if there's a Democrat president, this country will be transformed, lickety-split, overnight. And there will be a reaction to that. There will be a violent reaction to that, not because Larry Klayman advocated, I don't, or any of my clients, they don't. But that's what's likely to happen, because people are going to realize, just like in Atlas Shrugged of Ayn Rand, that they can't live like this. You remember John Galt? Go read that book. Go watch the movies. They're B movies, but they're great movies, because that was a resistance that built up by a tyrannical government that dumbed everybody down to a socialist way of thinking. Everybody was equal. There was no longer achievement. Nothing really mattered other than just filling your pockets at the government till. The book doesn't end with a result. John Galt, was missing for a while, and then all of a sudden he surfaces. I want you to read Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand, many decades ago, but it's proving to be true. And 1984 by George Orwell, Big Brother, because that is where we are right now. And the American people are getting smarter. They're not terribly smart, but they're getting smarter. And they're beginning to understand just how corrupt the government is. So I want you to go to freedomwatchusa.org, join our Justice League, contribute to our cause. I need to hire more lawyers. I need more paralegals. I need more support staff. We are your Justice Department. Go to ClivenBundyDefenseFund.org. That's ClivenBundyDefenseFund.org. I'm defending the Bundys privately, at least in those lawsuits, and contribute to his cause. Go to CorseyLegalDefenseFund.com. CorseyLegalDefenseFund.com. Contribute to Jerry Corsi. He stuck his neck out like Laura Loomer. He would not be rolled by Special Counsel Robert Mueller and testify against the president under threat of indictment and going to jail for the rest of his life. You need to support Jerry. He's still bailing himself out of debt, and he also is still under potential legal risk. These are the kinds of people that you need to support. As far as getting documents are concerned, anybody can do that. You can send out FOIA requests. You want to become Tom Fitton at Judicial Watch? Look on our website. I'll put a draft FOIA request up there. You can do the same thing. You'll get on Hannity if you get some good documents. You'll become famous, if you want to call that famous. But what we're talking about is getting the job done. Not grandstanding it, getting the job done, because we need to save the country peacefully and legally, and support our citizens' grand juries that are going to be indicting the Bidens. They're going to be indicting McCabe. The Justice Department isn't doing it. So again, I know that, I'm trying to push you in a certain direction, but we need your help. We really need your help. FreedomWatchUSA.org. Freedom Watch does today what Judicial Watch used to do when I ran it. I want to thank you. Thank you for listening to me. Share the show. God bless you. God bless your family. God bless America. And God save America. And I'll be back next week with another edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman.